Home, home on the range, where the deer and the antelope play, where seldom is heard a discouraging word, and the skies are not cloudy all day. Hello, welcome to the show. This is the Goodwind podcast, and I'm Niko LaPelusa, your host. And so happy that you are here. You can be anywhere in the world right now, but you are here with me in a way, whether you're listening in the car or you are watching. Thank you for being here so much. As always, like or subscribe. That would help me out. And feel free to contribute to my Patreon or OnlyFans account, where you get exclusive material, bonus episodes, and a lot more. You might even be able to see my nipples. And by doing that, by supporting my OnlyFans or Patreon, you will be helping me in my soul's mission, my life's mission, to bring the American Bison population back to the Great Plains. And if you are unaware, the reason I'm doing this is there was a time where we thought that having grazing animals contributed to the desertification of the land, meaning the land is becoming more and more desert. The Sahara Desert, for example, used to be lush forests. There's evidence of water, much like Mars. Mars became a desert. And grazing animals, we thought that because they ate grass, right, and they exposed the soil to the sun, that they would actually contributing to the desertification, only to find out that that's the exact wrong and exact opposite effect. There is now documented evidence over 20 plus year studies done by the Savory Institute, Savvory, showing that packered animals, animals that graze, cows, bison, elephants, buffaloes of all sorts, they contribute to the reforestation and I don't think grassification is a word, but they bring the grasslands back. So once desert, they have returned to grasslands. So it is not too late. If it's already a desert, these animals have the capability to bring land back to green and lush. How? Through poo and pee. By munching on grasses, and they're in large herds, right? They cover lots and lots of area. They munch on grasses, they pee and they poop on the land, and they compact that pee and poo down by walking on it, and that has the effect of fertilizing the soil. Furthermore, grasslands, when they get too tall, this is the reason we burn grasslands, is because we think that by burning them, if the grass gets too tall and it's not mowed down, then the new grass for the next year has a hard time growing because it's in shade. It's in the shade of the death of the previous grass. So the soil and the sprouts need the ability to receive light. So by munching the grass, we give the grass for the next year an opportunity to receive light and to grow. We're fertilizing it through pee and poop of these ruminant animals, which fertilize the soil really well. And I think it has something to do with the fact that they have a bunch of different stomachs or something like that. So we burn the forest, but that actually, it doesn't help it doesn't give nutrition back to the soil. It chars it. And though it gives the sprouts an opportunity to grow for the next year, it's actually continuing to take away from the soil and make it more brittle. So the solution is bringing back herding animals. And I've said it once and I'll say it again. There were 60 million American buffalo, bison, in what's known as the United States today. There were 60 million bison in 1800s, or it's either the 18th century or the 1800s. 200, 300 years ago, 60 million bison. When the colonists came and they were fighting against the native people, particularly like the Plains tribes, like the Lakota Nation, their entire life was the buffalo. Entire life was the clothes, food, shelter. They moved with the buffalo. The buffalo sustained them. Tools, everything. Everything. So the colonists, to win and to decimate the Lakota people and the other Great Plains people, they decimated the bison population. From 60 million, it went to 26. Not million. 26. I almost have 26 fingers and toes. That many. 60 million. That's 6 with 7 zeros after it. 7 zeros after a 6, then the decimal point, to 26, which is this. Many. Decimated. Which decimated the native peoples. So we are now back to where we're at. So they were decimated in, like, I think 1820, 1810, something like this. And we're back to 32,000. From 60 million to 26, period. Now we're back at 32,000. And most of them are domesticated bison, and a lot of them are what's known as beefalo, which is a hybrid of buffalo and cattle, beef and buffalo. Which, look, that's a step, because although I think that it's important to bring back the original species, the original bison, as best as possible, herding animals have the ability to repair the soil, repair the land. Maybe this is what India, why they worship the cow. Maybe, part of it, because it's it's so important for revitalizing the land. And what does that mean? When we revitalize the land, we revitalize the water. Healthy land is where we live. Where we live is land. Healthy land will help supplement, filter out things that get to water, keep the waterways clean. And then that's, water recycled. So that is my mission. It's very clear how I'm going to get there. I don't know, but and how I'm going to contribute, I don't know. I don't think I need to be like the person to contribute, but that's my energy. My prayers go in that direction. And what's my part in it all? My part in bringing back millions of bison back to the Great Plains to repair this monocropped soil. Unsure, but it is still the focus. And I'm getting some good feedback from the universe, if you will. As soon as I've been talking about this and stating this, I'm learning stuff that things are coming into my sphere, right? Because I'm programming myself to maybe listen for it. I'm meeting people that are giving me great information. And if you're not familiar, which I wasn't up to a couple weeks ago, there was something called the ghost dance. And this was done by the native peoples as a last-ditch effort to it's really sad, actually. And I recommend that you do some research on it. But yeah, it's as sad as you think, maybe. But a brief outline is all the tribes of the plains got together and they had a ceremony, a dance called the ghost dance, to fulfill a prophecy, or to create a prophecy to bring the buffalo back. That was the mission, to bring the bisons back and to send the colonists back to Europe, to send the white people away. And they got together and they said these prayers for days, and they did this ceremonious dance and rituals, all to bring the bison back. and to send the colonists away, it had the exact opposite effect. The colonists saw these tribes gathering, and they viewed it as a threat. They viewed the gathering as some sort of organization and some sort of, threatening activity. And it led to like a massacre. So the ghost dance, I mean, there's no way for me to justify it having not been there, but I find it interesting that me as a descendant of white colonists am now so passionate about something I didn't, something that I might have contributed to. And I'm wondering, my justification is maybe the ripples of something like the ghost dance they don't happen in the time. Magic and like manifestation and stuff, I think there's a lot to it, okay? But the timing just seems abstract. Like time seems to be like the loophole for I guess a pun. It just, time seems cyclical, and linear time seems to, to have a lot of pitfalls, especially on the imagination or the spiritual plane, whatever that is. And so my justification is like, yes, at the time it may have seemed like it set the native peoples back, and it did. But it may have planted seeds for their mission to actually reemerge at a different time. I don't know. I found it interesting that I'm setting this goal and setting this intention, and now I'm getting like historical lessons about others doing the same before I came. And I didn't know about the ghost dance beforehand, but I found it really interesting. And I talked to, and I lived in Minnesota, where I trained at a jiu-jitsu academy, and I had one of my favorite guys at the gym. We were at the same rank at that time. We would train together often, smoke some joints, after class and hang out. He's a man of the Lakota Nation. And at the time, that meant nothing to me. But now that I'm strangely getting integrated into that world, being invited to ceremonies, and participating in some stuff that is of Lakota peoples. And yeah, of course, it's weird. Like, it's not like Dances with Wolves. I'm not a native person. And I have to approach, and I continue to approach with as much respect as possible, while also listening to my heart, which appreciates what I've learned from the native people, without being careful not to romanticize, right? Because I'll go to these ceremonies, and of course I'll talk, and they're mostly white people. They're mostly non-native peoples, because the people leading the ceremony will be like native of Colombia or native of South America or Germany or what have you. So there's not like a huge Lakota presence, or I should say native people's presence, although sometimes there is. And just approaching with enough guilt, enough acknowledgement, validation of the ancestral suffering, right? Because I look like the problems of the past. So the irony of now me, looking to be healed or looking to participate, it has to be acknowledged. But there is there's a romanticizing of the native peoples. Like, me and the other white guys that hang out and do these ceremonies, I can just hear in the language like they were living 100% right. Like they were perfect people, completely in touch with nature, and we're the bad guys. We're the bad people, and it's it's like a denial of that violence existed in all peoples. Like that fire, that not even fire, that violence exists in all people. Like war wasn't just a white person thing. War is a phenomenon that exists in all cultures and existed before, European colonists. Now, did we one up it with industrialization, with guns and motor vehicles and bombs? Maybe, yeah. And it's like, did we go too far? Yeah. I mean, yeah, right? There's a beauty in innovation, but my point is, war isn't just isn't particular to race. It transcends race. And of course, it's like, no one wants to hear this, but it's racist to be like, yeah, white people invented war. It just has existed. Territorialism, like, look at roosters, chickens, any animal. There's a certain amount of defending, there's a certain amount of survival, and there's a certain amount of fight that lives in a lot of creatures. Many, particularly ones that are mobile. Even plants have defense mechanisms. Plants create poison because they can't move. They create poison so that they're not eaten, so that their seed continues to get propagated. So I don't overly romanticize. I love a lot of the principles and a lot of the romantic type stories of the native peoples, with how they would be able to communicate with nature, with communicating with nature as a full-on entity. The water was not just a place to swim, or fish or whatever. It was a being. And I value that stuff. And I use it to try to understand the world, while keeping in mind that, I don't know, it's not necessarily my culture. But maybe if we go farther and farther enough back, eventually culture disintegrates, right? If you go back to Lucy or Adam and Eve, there's hominids that exists. I think we found the oldest skeleton. It was on Rogan, and I don't know enough about it, but we found a hominid that looks like a descendant of us, Homo sapiens, that predates Lucy, which was the previously old. It predates her by many, many years, and I forget if it's millions or hundreds of thousands. It's many. It's more than I can fathom. And it's rough. Like, shit, living out in the world, in the nature, I miss it, and yet I look at where I'm at. I'm in a room with controlled climate, with insulation and a coffee, and yeah, I don't think it does any good or does any improvement to continue to demonize the white culture for me, because that's a direct form of self-hatred. I will look at the ancestral trauma and bring humility as much as I can, bring humbleness to the practices and understanding when I can. Like, I'll continue to do my best and create self-awareness around that. But a particular like demonizing innovation or industrialism, it just doesn't seem to be the way either. It doesn't seem like, I look at spirit as inclusive, and it includes the present as much as possible. So presently we have these, it's this technology, and we have this industrialism, and we have these different races, and it could be of privilege to be able to say this, but God to me includes it all. There's no denial of what is, at least right now. There's a certain comfort in, I'm noticing that, because like I'll see conversations, or I'll see engagement on Facebook or Twitter, or friends will show me text conversations they have, and it's like, when I get down to like the sixth part of the interaction, it's like, why did you keep going? It always kind of baffles me. It's like, when I respond with a little bit of fire or a little bit of angst to someone, it's like, and they respond back, it's like, why did you engage? Like, why would you engage with that? Why would you let me like throw poop at you and then like pick it up and throw it back? It's like, if someone throws poop at me, I feel like they don't get anything. I go to the shower, I wash off, I move forward. So it kind of amazes me how the engagement people continue to have. Like 7 comments later, it's like, you guys aren't getting anywhere. Anything that this person says is going to trigger you. And it almost becomes like, who's going to back down first? And the answer is like, no one. No one backs down sometimes. And what I've come to realize is there's a comfort in an enemy. I think a lot of like the philosophical existence that we have answers the question, who am I? Like, why am I? Who am I? And what's this all about? Through the question of understanding myself, or who am I? And there's comfort in an enemy, because it's like, okay, who am I not? I'm not that. It's almost like the sculptor that takes a big block and takes away everything that isn't the figure that they're carving, as opposed to someone who picks up pieces and smushes them together to create something. It's like taking a larger thing and trimming off all that isn't. And an enemy is like this. It's like, I'm continuing to interact just so I can like tell myself or understand myself what I'm not. And I'm not saying it's wrong. It's just strange, It's a strange practice. Instead of asking myself, like, who am I creatively? The phases where I'm like, who am I not? Like, that's what I'm not. And there's value in it too. Okay, and I have to reiterate this point because I'm getting messages about this. It's like, you're just projecting, or everything is a perception of you. That is such a tactic, a tool for what's known as gaslighting. Okay. It is true that if I'm triggered by something, there's a part in me that is reactive, that is triggered, that is hurt, that is harmed, that is a scar, that is a trauma. There is a part of me, and that is worth looking at. That is worth looking at. But when I let that person know, when I communicate to that person being group, hey, this is causing me harm. If you would like to continue a relationship, if you'd like to be with me, work with me, I would appreciate, it would behoove you to not continue this action. Or don't do this. I didn't like when you did this. And they say, well, I'm fine, and you're just projecting. No. That needs to stop a little bit. No, that needs to stop a lot of bit. Like, to deny someone's perception will not help them overcome it. What I see this in my life too. I have also used, hey, you're just projecting on me. I'm just a mirror, okay? I'm just reflecting back. No, not exactly. When I've done, and I'm learning that I was wrong in those situations, and I'm learning how to better handle those. Because when I do something, and my girlfriend's like, "Oh, why did you do that? That makes me feel small and insecure," and I'd be like, "Well, that's all." And that's all you. You got to know yourself. You got to know that you're bigger, or like that you're greater, that you're divine, and then my actions won't affect you. Shame on me for doing that, for saying that. Because what I'm learning now how to react to that is, whoa, you are right. Like that's really selfish. That was really selfish of me. I was only thinking of myself, and maybe you even deserve better, you know. And I hope you give me the chance to be better, or um I understand if you need a particular amount of space, you know, please don't go. you know, and by doing that, by validating them, I'm noticing what happens. Then all of a sudden she goes, "Thank you." And you know what? I realize I realize that there's a bit of self-reflection I have to do. It's almost like by me being able to self-reflect and me being able to validate her, now all of a sudden she can self-reflect and validate herself. I'm getting the response that I wanted when I said, "You're just projecting," which is what I wanted her to be like, "Oh my gosh, I am. Like, there is a part in me that I do need to address about this matter so that I don't come at you with such vitriol and fire." But that didn't happen. That doesn't happen because I was invalidating her thoughts and her experience. So, and by being defensive, and what do I get back? Defense. So that's the mirror, right? That's how the mirror works in a way, or that's how it can work in a lot of ways. But what I'm finding is, um, it's my responsibility to step into that role and to acknowledge and to self-reflect so that others can. And it's not always effective to say, "Hey, you need to look at this." We don't throw stones if we live in a glass house or whatever. But when I've looked at myself in a lot of ways in a particular situation, and I've taken the time to self-analyze, and I'm like, well, this person still won't stop doing that thing. Hey, I got to tell them. It's been a year. It's been 2 years, 3 years, whatever, 5 hours, whatever it is. I got to tell them this. I'm not remedying this within myself. It's not all my burden. I need to tell them. And then they'll either accept it, be able to self-reflect, or they'll be defensive. And at that point, maybe that's when the break happens. So please, if you find yourself saying you're a mirror, or that the person is projecting anytime there's some sort of criticism your way, you're going to have to let that. Maybe you don't have to. You probably keep going with it. It would behoove you to let it go. I think it's a nice little portal into the love and into the understanding that you really desire. So knowing who you are by knowing who you're not, and the comfort of an enemy, the comfort of having an enemy, to know who you are by knowing who you're not. Yeah, I particularly like through text or through like a Facebook Messenger stream, it's like maybe I got 1 or 2 comebacks. Maybe I'll comment, right? And it's usually not at a person. I'll usually comment on the post, and then someone will be like, "Hey, you're wrong." And I'd be like, "Well, this is what I tried to mean, and this is why I think that there's validity, or this is why I'm right." And they'll say, "No, you're still wrong." That's when I'll go, "I don't want to play anymore. Thank you. Thank you for your input. I don't want to play anymore. You're not invited to my birthday party." So when someone goes, comment, someone says, you're wrong. And then they say, this is why I'm right. And they say, nope, you're still wrong. And then they say, yeah, this is why I'm right. And this is why, why I think you're wrong. And they go, no, I'm right. And you're still wrong. And they'll go, no, now you're being hypocritical because you're also wrong. And it's like, wow, like you guys got heart. You can really hang in the fight there. But the fight feels a little like fake because it's like you don't see the person's feelings. You don't see their body language. You see words on a screen. Yeah. So maybe just balancing out like who you're not with who you are. I think answering the question, who am I? As long as there's balance of like, okay, I'm not that. As long as that's balanced with I am. Because I think there is value now in enemies. I was so afraid of having enemies rocking the boat. And I think I was doing myself a disservice, ultimately. And rocking the boat, I'm taking these vocal lessons right now. And shout out to Dominica. I think her artist name is Zemzwe. If you find her on Instagram, really great vocalist. And she also lives in Copenhagen. And I think I found her page through a friend in Copenhagen where I used to live. And so not only was I looking for improvement on vocals, but it was kind of like a way to like reconnect with Copenhagen. I felt synchronicity in that respect. So I'm taking these vocal lessons, and it's Zoom, which has its benefits because, I'll be on mute. So I can really, when we're doing improvisation and I'm going for ranges and I'm going for things that I would be afraid, sad because they would hurt the ears of other people. Because I'm sound like a screechy cat sometimes. But sometimes you got to go there. You got to go to the screechy cat to know your range, or to learn your range, or to practice a thing, to develop a skill you've never had before. So I'm in my home, my private space, doing these improvisational drills, and in between classes, we meet once a week. I'm doing these improvisation things, and she'll encourage you. She's like, I'll hold it down. I'll hold down a rhythm and rock the boat. That's what she says. She says, rock the boat. And I'll find myself like trying to improvise, trying to rock the boat. And something with improvisation, it's like it's the same thing as like I need to learn to follow the rules before I learn to break them. So I need to like follow along. And then the improvisation, it springs up like a hiccup, right? It's like I'm following along. Maybe it starts with the seed of like, okay, I'm going to improvise and like go my own way. And then I continue along on the format. And then all of a sudden something comes to me where I, try a different range, or I try a different scale. And that's where like the beauty comes from. I feel like when I'm forcing improv, or I'm forcing the boat rock, it doesn't feel good. What does it feel like? It feels like look at me, like, as opposed to here you go. And so I'm finding how to like follow rules enough until I'm ready to break them. I think there's something in that with like all these practices too. It's like following technique. Yeah, I think that's pretty self-explanatory. But really thankful for these vocal lessons, and we had to share our intentions for doing these, and being part of the class. And it's not a big secret, but I had illness in my throat and chest, and I think, as though I don't look through everything through a metaphysical lens, I include it with the physical, right? So I did do physical medicine, Western treatment, but I'm also looking at, I know that addresses symptoms primarily, and I know that the root may lie somewhere else, whether it be gut biome, right? If you want to keep it on a physical level, or if you're willing to transcend the physical, it might be. So for me, it was like, I'm not communicating. I'm holding a lot in, hence the podcast, and hence the music lessons. So by toning, by singing, I'm opening up to sweet surrender of universal love that's all around. We are opening up in sweet surrender to the universe, love light of the one. We are opening up in sweet surrender to the luminous love light of the one. We are opening. We are opening. Yeah, so that's why I'm doing it. And I like it. I love it. I want a bit more of it. Cool. So I do want to share one more thing in today's episode. A hobby that is turning into something a little bit more. My great uncle is he's been a coin collector now for many years. Even when he was in his professional, he started his own construction company. He's Italian. He's Italian. Started his own construction company. Italian. I have 10 uncles, and 5 of them have construction companies. It's Italian American. But he's been collecting coins for a long time. He knows his stuff. He sent me now many books because basically he's making money hand over fist. He's making the maximum amount of money you can on eBay without having to report a W-9 or something, which I think is he's retired and he's making tens of thousands of dollars selling coins through eBay. Plus he sells them privately. So he's doing appraisals. He does appraisals of coins and metals and currency, and then he buys and sells them too. And he has been nice enough to include me. So what I'm doing at this point is I'm going through all the coins we have in our house, and I'm looking up their value, and I'm taking notes, and I'm learning what to look for in coins and like how to appraise. So I guess I'm sharing this because, one, it's heckin' cool, I think. I just really like it. It's something about the physical. Money's great. I haven't made money from it yet. I've only been studying. But the taste of it, the texture of it, I love it. I like coins. I feel like Scrooge McDuck, I feel like a pirate. Having a chest of pennies and various other coins. It's very piratey, and it's heckin' cool. And there are some coins that are fucking valuable, and you wouldn't even know it unless you knew it. So part of this is like, if you have a bunch of coins, if you have a shoebox full of coins or a jar of coins, and you want them appraised to see if there's anything valuable, I'd be happy to do that. I'm trying to get my skills up, and shit, I can even show you how to sell them. And maybe if I'm a super good boy, you'll give me a commission if it's worth it, But right now I'm just trying to do a lot of learning, and I'm doing it mostly with my uncle, going with him to virtual shows and stuff. So I'm learning about coins, I'm learning about metals, and I'm digging it. I'm really digging it. And so this is kind of like my advertisement is like, if you have coins or someone that has a bunch of coins, because first off, here's another thing, like I think Chase Bank and some other banks, they're not even cashing out your coins anymore. They're trying to eliminate physical currency, folks. So one, get with the Bitcoin thing. I mean, it's pretty high now, but get with it. I've been telling you since 2016 to get with it. So come on now. Get with it. And second, secondly, maybe hold on to your metals, hold on to your coins. Find out if they're valuable. Find out if you have any coins that are worth something. Dude, there's literally coins that are worth tens of thousands of dollars, and it's not like special gold coins. It's like, here's a nickel or like a $50 or a nickel, whatever, that there was an error in the printing press or in the mint, and because of that there was only 5,000 of these made, and because of the rarity it's worth thousands of dollars. One coin, a nickel. So there's money. You might have money that you don't know you have. And there's a bunch of ratings to these coins that I'm learning, and there's a lot to it, but it's cool. It's cool. So if you have coins and you want them appraised, reach out through me, direct message me at Niko LaPelusa at Instagram. You can leave a comment here, but the comments on YouTube I don't get to readily. I kind of just go through them in chunks. So things to consider. Very cool. So we talked about the buffalo again, why it's so important to bring back the buffaloes. We talked about the comfort of an enemy and understanding who I am by understanding who I'm not. And we talked a little bit about coins and money. So I think it's a good one. I'm like sad for this one to end for some reason. I wonder. That's okay. We just move forward. But I'm sad. That's okay. Hopefully I'll get tomorrow or the next day, and we'll do another one. Thank you so much for being here. I hope you feel it. I'm feeling good today, and I hope this is transmitting through the airwaves, so that you feel just a little touch of nice too. Maybe a little kick of serotonin. Maybe your pineal gland is just a little less calcified after this. And I love me, and I love you, and because of that, I'm able to love you as well. And I encourage you to do the same. And thank you so much. This has been the Goodwind.